All right, good afternoon, everyone. This is the Affordable Housing Growth and Development Trust Fund Board meeting of Monday, July 1st, 2024. Being 2 p.m., we'll begin the meeting. In accordance with Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 20, the chair must inquire whether anyone is taping this meeting and to please make their presence known. Seeing none, I'll move on to call the meeting to order. Wendy Northcross,
Present.
Laura Schufelt,
Present.
Mark Milne,
Present.
Andy Clyburn,
Present.
Mark L's here. Okay. Now this is the time for public comment. Do we have anybody from the public that would like to comment? No. Okay. Seeing none, I will move on to topics of discussion. The first topic of discussion is a continued review, the development activity application for Brat LLC, the flats at 199 Barnstable Road, Hyannis. Brat LLC is requesting $800,000 in support of redevelopment of 1.21 acres to construct 45 new one-bedroom rental apartments. A minimum of 5 units are required by local ordinance to be permanently deed restricted for affordability to occupants earning up to 65% of the area median income. This project proposes to protect 4 additional units to be permanently deed restriction for affordability to occupants earning up to 80% of area median income, for a total of 9 income eligible units. Okay, so why don't we continue this discussion? I'll go staff and then I'll go right to Mr. Tellman, but staff, any comment at this point?
Through the chair, my video seems to have frozen. This is Jillian, sorry. And I was gonna just lead by saying as at your previous meeting, you had in your minutes also what you had reported back on this project. So hopefully everybody is up to date on this revision. And in the packet also were the revised numbers that Tim had provided.
Okay.
I'll stop there.
Thank you. Okay, Mr. Tellman.
All right, thank you for having us again. Now, I did do a complete presentation the last meeting. If anyone would like me or have any additional questions regarding that, I'm happy to answer those. But what I did was, in front of you, you should have the changes from our previous request. And as you read in the agenda, we're proposing 9 affordable units, previously 7, 5 at 65% AMI, which is unchanged from the previous request, plus 4 units at 80% AMI, where previously we had 2 units at 100% AMI. And the request from the trust was reduced by $250,000. And so at this time, our total request is for $800,000 or $200,000 per unit at 80%. Previously, for our discussions, that was $525,000 per unit at 100%. Also, if you looked through the build-out costs, the project has been reduced by $250,000, where the bank loan was increased by $50,000, and the development fee was reduced by $200,000. Other than that, the remainder of the project remains unchanged from the original request. And one additional point I'd like to make is we're still on a good continuum with this project. And on June 20th, we had our preliminary subcommittee review for the TIE, which was unanimously approved at our request, and then we'll move on to the first read at town council and then follow up with a vote thereafter. So we're still in a good place, and that's just a development that's different from when we last spoke. So
Okay.
at this point, I'd just entertain any questions.
All right. So, back to members of the board. Board members, do you have any questions? Yes, Laura.
So the 200,000 per unit for 80% is still above, our, our, the parameters that we have in our guidelines. So in looking at how you get above the 150, the only thing that I could see was that it's a redevelopment. But I didn't see any demolition costs, so I don't know where those could be in the development budget. So I guess, we're still under the, what makes this project go to a level above what our guidelines are for the amount of funding. I have other questions, but I'll start it off with that one.
Okay. Mr. Tallman, did you want to address that one?
Yes, two major factors. We are in unprecedented times, as I would imagine everyone knows, with interest rates double what they were 3 years ago, and construction costs had risen dramatically. They're stabilizing now, and if they were still on the rise that they were over the past 3 years, this project would be unattainable. But we can't shy away from the fact that it's remarkably difficult to undertake a project like this. And again, we need to borrow approximately $8 million. And 3 years ago, that annual interest rate would be 240, and now it's 560. And that is the main reason. Trying to make this fit the parameters from a bank perspective and a development perspective.
But I think if I might reframe Laura's question, we're looking for information from you that would allow us to consider your request, but right now, you've reached a ceiling, and we're looking for that justification so we could consider whether or not we would be supportive of going beyond that. Isn't that your question, Laura?
Exactly. Thanks.
Yeah.
The justification, I mean, I would also argue, is that the amount in the guidelines probably hasn't kept pace with the world. And as they are, I don't know if they're statutes or guidelines, but we're trying to put this together to get to the finish line. And I also included a capital structure, and
You're being thugged by the CCP thugs.
Thank you. Thank you for deleting each of those. Do you believe the meeting is secure in a way that we can continue this, or what has been past protocol relevant to proceeding?
We can proceed. I'm managing the waiting room. I apologize. I was actually texting Channel 18 with the concern as it happened. So we can keep going, and I will screen anybody else before they're admitted.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Tim, you were explaining that the market to develop merits consideration of a higher level of subsidy is what I hear you say. And though, but I do stand with board members in that we do have a set of criteria in place. And in a sense, if we're gonna deviate from that, my preference would be to bring it back to the board for that exact discussion, separate from a specific project, reconsider the criteria for eligibility, and then come back for a consideration versus, being more, being more project specific. It would be a policy sort of discussion of the board, but again, I'll stop there because I'm really facilitating the discussion of my fellow board members. Laura, did you have any more questions relevant to this, or is there still the same pending question?
I had a question on the budget, on the development budget. There's $1.1 million in reserves, so I was wondering who requires them and who holds them? Because that's a,
Are you talking
Yeah,
about
the
the 600 and the 500?
it's listed in the development budget as 1.1. So it
Oh,
must be the two together.
Okay, if you refer to the schedule of build-out costs, the 600 is construction loan interest and fees. And because from the beginning of the project to when rents are collected, you have to pay interest, and so the bank holds that. And then the miscellaneous contingency is for unforeseen changes. And so that would be, it'd be 5% on 10 million, so it's a little less than 5%, but based on our experience, we feel we've covered as much as we know about, but unforeseen things do happen, and that's what that 500 is. And again, the bank holds that. We don't get that advanced unless,
Right, unless there's, I understand that, it's just in reserves, so it seems like it's
right,
it's not really reserves, it's contingency and interest.
I just try to fit it somewhere on the application, but on the
Okay.
build-out cost, it's identified.
I couldn't read that.
Understand. I guess I would ask for us to move ahead, is there a number that the board would consider putting forth for approval?
Andy, please.
Yeah, I agree with Laura that our parameters are at $150,000 per unit. So, I mean, quick math, that's $600,000 ask. We have discussed going above that up to 200,000 if there were other considerations specific to the project, such as increased AMI. So I don't know if there's movement on getting more units deed restricted to bring that number per unit down, or to have a discussion on, deeper affordability.
We are unable to go more units because we need to be at 80% of market rate for HDIP. I guess I would ask the board to consider, its level of 150 a unit, and we need to sharpen our pencil. And if we, be able to find 200,000 in a budget of $12 million.
Would they consider 175? I'm not on sticker. I don't know if I can.
Okay, further discussion, Laura?
Yeah, I agree with the 600,000. I would just, another point is that the plans show 2 accessible units, and at 5%, you'd need to have 3.
We have 3. I'm not sure what you're saying, but 3 times 5 is 1.5 no, it's 3, yes.
Okay, there's only 2 marked on the plans that I have, so
They're both.
just
Right.
making sure that you knew that.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Okay, further discussion by the board. Laura, did you have other questions?
I think you had said that the lottery agent was going to be the housing authority, or they were going to be the monitoring agent.
We have not picked a lottery agent. I'm not,
Okay,
I'm unfamiliar if BHA could be both.
they can't.
Right, we would,
one or the other.
I use them as the the monitoring agent now, which I would do here. And I would be using a different lottery agent than utilized the last go round. Yes.
Yes, Laura, are you done?
I'm done.
Okay, thank you. Wendy, please.
Thanks. I'd really like to see this project done. I mean, I'd like to see it done for Barnstable Road and for Hyannis. I think it would be nice to see new buildings and, you know, some activity there that creates a neighborhood. I'm prepared to move it at 150 per unit, which is our max. But I mean, for me, the mitigating factor is the improvement in the community and the improvement on the roadway. And again, I am guessing that the tax revenue generated by this property might exceed what's currently on that site, which I also think is a benefit, but so I'm prepared to move it at 150 per unit.
Laura, did you have a comment?
I was just gonna make the comment that with the tie that he's asked for, there won't be any increase in the taxes from what the current is.
Good to know. Thank you.
Okay, so Mark, please.
Yes, that's correct. I think the request was 100% for the first 5 years, Tim, that's right. And then 85% for the next 5 years after that. But going back to Laura's original question about any demolition associated with this project, could we get some clarification as to if there is any demolition associated with this?
Yes.
And what the cost of that is and where that is in the budget?
So we have our best bid is about 80,000, right? 80,000, 85,000 for demo of the project to be a clean site. I don't know if anyone's seen it, you know, it's gonna be it's all stick built, 40 or 50 years old and needs to be demoed, but that number is 85,000 and it is in the budget.
Okay. Any further questions from the board? Okay, Attorney Galvin, do you have any comments for us to, consider?
No, I think the applicant has to come forward with the showing of some additional criteria to qualify for any more than 150,000.
Okay, thank you, sir. Okay, staff, any comments before I ask the board how they'd like to proceed? Seeing none. Jillian, I know you're still frozen there, so
I had no comments. I just wanted to make sure you had the opportunity to review this again. So.
okay, Jillian, thank you. All right, so how would the board like to proceed? Do I have a motion on this?
I guess I have a question, sir.
Oh, you have a question?
Yeah, are we looking to make a move to vote this at a lower level, or is there preference to go back and then come back again?
Good, thank you, Andy. Good question.
I would request a vote at the new level. We need to continue this process. And we're in a good place and it's, you know how just timing, we need to keep going. And so I would request that at this time for a vote at the lower level.
Thank you.
Then I would make a motion that we support the project at $600,000.
Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a first and a second. Yes, Laura, any discussion?
Yeah, I think that when we make a motion, I know we didn't do it the last time, that we should include subject to a grant agreement between the two parties, just so we can be clear on that it will be, there will be a grant agreement coming forth.
Thank you. Attorney Galvin shaking his head. Yes, sir. Anything else to add to that?
No, would be happy to draft one.
Thank you, sir. Okay, so I have a first and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, roll call vote. Wendy Northcross,
Yes.
Laura Schufeld,
Yes,
Mark Milne,
Yes.
Andy Clyburn,
Yes.
Mark Ellis, yes. Thank you all. Thank you, Tim.
Thank you very much. We
Yes,
really
sir.
appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Okay. Moving on to topic number 2. This is a request for incremental payment option, pre-development architectural services, Bread and Roses, 298 to 302 Main Street, Hyannis. Grantee is seeking approval for periodic payments of incremental invoices for the $50,000 pre-development funding award to redevelop 2 apartments. Okay, I'll recognize staff first for any comment they may have, Jillian, and then I will recognize the proponent. Mr. Hersler, how are you, sir?
Oh, thank you. How are you?
I am well. Jillian, any
Yes,
comment on that?
well, through the chair, so this, the approval that we have with the grant agreement, it does talk about it be a reimbursable grant. And I think at this point, it was just a question from the applicant. He can clarify that he would like to submit periodic invoices and, you know, so kind of a pay-as-you-go process. But I'll let him explain if there's anything further. And I also was maybe an opportunity to just give us a little update on anything that may have progressed, or I'll leave it at that.
Sure. So, so the architecture has been underway. We've actually mostly been on hold waiting for this question to get resolved over the last 3 to 4 months. That, you know, Jillian really phrased most of it. The existing regulations seem to be just a little bit unclear about whether the project gets reimbursed at the end of the entirety of the project's completion, or during, you know, potentially incremental steps. Because again, interest rates, as you've just heard from the prior applicant, are just so incredibly high. I'd much prefer to be able to do this piece of the project without interest rates. That would just require me to be able to submit periodic invoices to avoid having a bank loan associated with the pre-development phase of this project.
Okay, thank you, sir. Discussion by the board member, but I would ask Mark Milne, how have we approached this question in the past? You remember?
I think, you know, that what's being requested here is a reasonable practice. And if our grant agreement, sounds like a grant agreement that we have in place allows for such a reimbursement mechanism to take place. So I'm questioning whether or not we even need to vote on this, or can we just implement?
Okay, board members, any other discussion? Laura, please, and then Wendy.
I also think it's reasonable, but I think it's also reasonable to ask for it to be monthly and not, you know, as they come in.
Correct. And that's actually what we had proposed. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Good question, Laura. And Wendy?
Laura kind of covered it.
Okay, great. Attorney Galvin, any recommendations on what's been requested of us?
Absolutely not. I think the grant agreement is could to allow these types of pre-development payments, and I think that the request to do it monthly is perfectly appropriate.
And this is this administrative, or does the board need to vote on it?
I think that this should be treated as an administrative request because the grant agreement's already been signed.
Thank you, sir. Okay, any further discussion on this item? Therefore, I do expect, Jillian, you'll proceed administratively.
Yes,
to work.
thank you for the clarification, and that helps me greatly.
Yes, thank you.
One last question, is there anything procedurally that you would like in terms of documentation as the invoices come in, or shall I just review with the applicant? And
I don't know what the I don't know what the internal processes for payment are in the town, but I would probably request that you follow whatever the internal processes for payment are in place. And I think as long as you adhere to those policies and practices, then I think as long as you have an invoice, the treasurer will make sure that you have one, and the accountant will make sure that it's all coming out of the right source, and you'll be fine.
Perfect. Thank you.
Mark Milne, did you have comment as well?
Yeah, I was gonna say basically the same thing. Jillian, we'll help you with that process internally, okay?
Lovely. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys.
All right.
Appreciate
Okay.
it. Have a great rest of your day.
All right, thank you. Okay, moving on. We'll move to topic number 3. This is a letter of intent, pre-development activity, Joshua and Tammy Barrows of 242 Barnstable Road, Hyannis, redevelopment of the vacant Spartan Cleaner site to create up to 56 units of community housing with an affordable housing component. Attorney Mills is here with us today. If that's correct. Who am I?
I'm sorry, sir. This is Jillian again. I don't believe the applicants or they were going to submit a letter of intent that described a little bit further. I haven't received that, and I don't think that Attorney Mills is here, but
Okay,
so I think we have insufficient information to proceed with this agenda item.
okay, so we will, I guess we're not continuing it because it's insufficient information, so you will go back and if appropriate, put it on a future agenda once appropriate information is submitted?
Yes, and I apologize. I jumped the gun because originally we had thought there was a timing issue, but there was not at the moment. So thank you.
Okay, well, I want to thank you for that, and I will move on to approval of minutes from June 3rd, 2024. Yes, Wendy.
Excuse me, I'd move to approve the minutes. There was one slight edit that I would make, but it doesn't materially change anything. So I'll go ahead and move the minutes.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second,
Do we have any discussion? Seeing none. Roll call vote. Wendy Northcross,
Yes.
Laura Schufeld,
yes.
Mark Milne,
Yes.
Mark Ells. Yes, Andy, you were,
Abstain.
thank you, sir. Okay, staff updates. Trust administrator or our planning and development director, do you have any update for us?
I can start if you want. I just I wanted to note that all board members were reconfirmed by town council on the 27th of June. Confirmatory votes on, so everyone is reappointed, 2-year appointments for each, or 2-year terms for each. Let's see, also the Community Preservation Committee's annual meeting is the 15th of the month, and I will be bringing them information, also the report I'm drafting now. I'll be sharing that, hopefully, please advise, but with the chair and with the vice chair. So I don't know if that needs full board review, but if it does, please shout out and I'll make sure it gets to people. Then the presentation for on the 15th is basically about the trust, just for the general public. Then also delving into our projects that we have done during my tenure. A brief info on process for people who might be applying to the trust. And then I wanted to add information about priorities of the trust, and if people had anything they wanted me to add or address specifically, please feel free to relay that to me and I will include that, or at least review it with the chair.
Okay, thank you. Elizabeth Jenkins?
Thanks. Yeah, I just wanted to add that the trust and housing will be the focus of that 15th CPC annual meeting. So certainly any trust members, if available or interested in attending and supporting Jillian in that, I'm sure that would be appreciated by Jillian. So just a heads up on that. I also wanted to just provide this group an update on the housing production plan update. The update was presented to the housing committee for additional comment, and it was initially presented to the planning board last Monday on the 24th. They took the presentation by staff as well as all of those public comments and housing committee comments under advisement, and they will be holding a second meeting at which public comment will be available on July 8th on that HPP before forwarding it to the town council and then presumably the town council housing subcommittee. That's all I have. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
If I could, I'm sorry, back through the chair, just another update also from the county, the Regional Housing Services Office. That is a pilot, there's a pilot program that was funded using ARPA funds, and that is that Regional Housing Services Office that the county, they would have staff then that would help us, help all of the 15 towns. And that would be to update a regional database, including all subsidized units throughout the region. And the benefit of that database, in addition to our own subsidized housing inventory, is that their database also will include unit by unit, not just project by project. So it's a much more in-depth database. It would allow for if we are participating, which I think I would suggest is a good idea. It's an intermunicipal agreement that each town would be signing. And the basic benefit to the towns is 30 hours of technical assistance. We have the opportunity to negotiate what that technical assistance will include, and if there are other projects or assistance that we would like to request of their staff. So that's progressing, and as of today, July 1st, it is now a live project and program. And the database, I think, is, I don't believe it's fully accessible now to the public, but it is something that we can tap into. And the next question, they will be working with staff to find out who in the town you would like to have access to that. And let's see, I think there was one other, and if people would like updates on our projects, the projects that we funded, please shout out. I don't know that we need to do that at this meeting, but if you would like it, I can do that.
Okay. I guess I'll look to planning and development and yourself to advise the trust on who should have access and any other action that we may want to consider or support that we may look for, Jillian, as a result of what the county's doing. Okay. Laura, please.
Just so you understand, usually it's by project. Because it's by units, I just would caution that it's confidential information. So that's why they ask who should have access, because it shouldn't be everyone.
Okay, and I'm fine with that. I'll go based on Elizabeth, Jillian, if you need to pull Robert into the discussion to make sure that Laura, we honor that confidentiality, then certainly I'm good with that. All right. So matters not reasonably anticipated by the chair. I'm going to take a little bit of leeway here and share with you that this is Elizabeth Jenkins' last trust meeting that she will be in support of. I'm going to ask her, I'm assuming Corey's here for a reason, but I'm going to ask you to elaborate a little bit on how you will see this proceeding, Elizabeth, in your absence. But I do want to say that your support and expertise, has been outstanding. And certainly as chair and as, assistant town manager, I've been serving on this now for almost 14 years. And the role you've played for the trust has made a significant difference. And I want to say thank you. It's been greatly appreciated and it will be missed. So thank you.
Thank you, Town Manager Els. It's been a pleasure to support this trust and see it reactivated and fully funded during my tenure here. Certainly, you're in good hands with Jillian, and we certainly would appreciate the help and support through Mark Milne and Karen Nober in finding a way to keep Attorney Galvin on board and supporting those grant agreements that we still have outstanding. Acting Director Jim Kupfer has been fully read into where everything stands today on the trust, and and we've had Corey on board and attending our meeting, so I'm sure there will be a seamless transition. Thank you.
Thank you. Any comment by the board, or can I move on to topics for future meeting agendas?
I'd just like to thank you. Well, Jillian, certainly don't go anywhere. And thank you, Elizabeth. Your vision's been very positive for our town, and I thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Okay, topics for future meetings? Any for discussion? Yes, Wendy, please.
What's more future date, because I'm always looking ahead to what I'm supposed to be doing. Monday is Labor Day in September, and that would be a normal meeting date for us. So I just wanted to get it. I'm assuming we won't meet, but do we need a meeting?
Okay. Jillian, take a look at that.
It looks like on your agenda, Town Manager Els, that there's one scheduled for the 6th. I'm on the webpage.
Oh, okay.
That would have been the normal pattern, so didn't never want to assume anything, so.
So September 6th, you're saying? I hadn't looked at it.
I had that as well, but
Okay.
please shout out if that is inconvenient for folks.
No? That's a Friday?
Yeah, but so far, that looks okay for me at the moment.
Yeah, by then it'll be. When's Labor Day? The
Second.
Second, good,
Right.
okay. I'm trying to figure out which kids. I got 3 kids going to college in over the next 8 weeks here. I got to figure out who's going where when. Elizabeth, you had your hand up.
I did. Sorry, in reflecting back on your question and topics a little bit further, I just wanted to add that Jillian Douglas and I spent a considerable amount of time researching and putting together a framework for a rent assistance program that could be funded by the trust in 2 parts, both a sort of an emergency rent assistance and then a 3-year more ongoing rent assistance program. I feel like there has been a considerable amount of administrative effort put into readying that program design and a recommendation to the trust to move that forward. So I would just hope it's included in our HPP. I hope it gets included in the recommendations that go to the Town Council Housing Subcommittee. But just wanted all members of the trust to know that that is there and teed up. And I think it is something, given the cost burden numbers in our community, given the fact that we have community partners there and ready and able to administer this to people who are greatly in need in our community. I hope it is something you see as a priority going forward.
Thank you. So that will be a future discussion item, Jillian, for us to.
I hope so. I think we made a decision at one point to put it on the agenda of the Town Council Housing Subcommittee to see where their priorities in terms of HPP implementation were going forward. But in coming via that committee, I hope we can see it come back to the trust.
Okay, good.
And we stand ready. If you, if that is your
Yeah.
desire, we shall move forward. Thank
And
you.
Laura sits on that committee, so certainly she has a perspective in which she can, I think, help prioritize some of these. The other one is, and sort of putting Mark Milne on the spot. We do now have authorization to be able to grant some tax incentive consideration to folks who are doing year-round rentals to qualified homeowners. This wouldn't necessarily be a trust priority, but I do think it's something that could help bolster our accessory affordable apartment program. I know there are concerns over sort of the monitoring and qualification of those units, but we do that already through accessory affordable apartment program. Again, I would hate to see that be something fall through the cracks. It's in the HPP, but just sort of appealing to all of you to think about that as a priority as well.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Would it be wise to wait to hear what the housing subcommittee says and have that brought forward and follow that with a discussion of the trust?
Yes, I think that was the intended process, but I would hate to see those two items, which I do think are ripe for action, fall through the cracks.
Okay, thank you. And Jillian, noted, please. And I'm sure with Laura on the committee, we will, we won't forget.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, any other future topics? Yes, Laura, please. I think you're muted there. so-
Yeah, it's a little premature, but I think we still have to be watching the seasonal communities legislation as that is moving forward with the housing bond bill. I think, as a gateway city, we already have a lot of the advantages that are being asked for in that legislation, but I think there'll be some small project things and infill that I think we'd be interested in trying to advocate for.
So what are you recommending relative to bringing before the trust?
I think when that happens, so that's why I said it's a little premature, but I think
Yep.
we need to be watching it, and it may be happening by September.
Okay. Okay, but no action at this time.
No action at this time, no.
Okay, thank you. Okay, any other discussion? Seeing none, our next scheduled meeting is Monday, August 5th at 2 p.m. That's all. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second,
Thank you. Okay, roll call vote. Wendy Northcross,
Yes.
Laura Schufelt,
Yes.
Mark Milne,
yes.
Andy Clyburn,
Yes.
Mark Ells, yes. Thank you all, appreciate it.